Welcome back, rail fans. And it is 10:31 a.m. Monday, August 7th. We're going to continue on with the next installment of tutorials. Tutorial 3, Diesel Cabs. This third tutorial will introduce you to cab controls in diesel electric locomotives. Control identification, control usage, driving skills, as well as coupling a locomotive to another piece of rolling stock. So let's get in there. Tutorial 3, Introduction. Welcome to the world of the real train physics. Learning to drive in cab view can be quite challenging, and while this tutorial won't cover everything there is to know, you will learn enough to get started. This tutorial will cover basic cab controls, starting and stopping the locomotive, reversing, coupling to, and coupling from rolling stock. First, get in the cab of this ATSF F7A by clicking on the cab view button, which is up here. Diesel display window. The first thing you will notice is that the display window is slightly different. The DCC controller has been replaced with a display that gives you much more detailed information about what the train is doing at any point. Below is a brief explanation of each of these figures. Flow. Any movement of air in the system. If there is air through the system, then the brakes are in the process of being applied or released. Pipe runs the length of the train. A drop in pressure results in the brakes being applied, while an increase in pressure means that the brakes are being released. The cylinder works opposite to the pipe, so a rise in pressure means that the brakes are being applied, and a drop in pressure means that the brakes are being released. So these two pretty much work in opposite of each other. Note, when the pipe and cylinder have the same reading, it means that the brakes are completely applied. Main reservoir displays the pressure in the main reservoir, a storage bank for compressed air used by the braking and some auxiliary systems. Equalizer. It sometimes takes a while for the brakes to be applied along the entire length of a train. The equalizer will show you in advance the amount of pressure you will wind up with so that you know if you have applied the brakes a little too much or too little. Throttle. How much power is being applied to the train. Reverser controls the gears, which are forward, neutral, and reverse. To change the gears, the throttle must be idling, be set to 0% power. The brakes shows what state the brakes are in. And the different states are application, release, and lag, partially applied. The train is controlled by using the mouse to operate various levers in the cab. It can also be controlled using the associated keyboard keys, but for now, we will use the mouse controls. Below is a shot of the ATSF F7A interior. You can pan the camera around the cab by clicking and holding the right mouse button and moving the mouse. You can switch camera positions within a cab by pressing those keys again. Bracket keys, I believe they're called. Zoom in and out using the mouse wheel or the page up and page down on the keyboard. Getting the train moving, selecting gears. The locomotive starts in neutral. Select the forward gear by moving the mouse over the reverser handle, clicking and holding the left mouse button and moving the mouse forward. The handle will move forward and the reverser display will change from neutral to forward. This can also be done by pressing the F key on the keyboard. I am using a rail driver controller, so all I gotta do is move the reverser lever forward. Getting the train moving, releasing the brakes. Next, release the brake by moving the train brake lap lever to the released position. Move the cursor over the lever, click and hold the left mouse button and move the mouse forwards. Watch the brake cylinder pressure on the display. A reading of 0 indicates that the brakes have been released. This can also be achieved by pressing the Q key on the keyboard. Once the brakes have been fully released, the throttle can be advanced slowly to get the train moving. The throttle has 8 positions on diesel trains and 32 positions on electric trains. Move the cursor over the lever, click and hold the left mouse button, and move the mouse backwards. The throttle should be placed in the idle position when you wish to apply the brakes again, or change the direction with the reverser. To advance the throttle, press the W key on the keyboard. X will reduce the throttle, and S will immediately return the throttle to the idle position. Alright, we're going to start off slowly, so I'm going to pull the throttle lever to 1. You've got the locomotive moving. Well done. Now let's work on how to stop it. There are 2 kinds of train brake handles. One has a lap position. The other is called a self-lapping. Sometimes you will want to slow down, but not stop completely. For example, you may be headed down a hill and be picking up speed even though the throttle is in a neutral position. Applying the brakes slightly, then lapping them, will allow you to slow the speed you want while without stopping completely. If the brake handle has a lap position, apply the train brakes by moving the handle to the service position. Watch the equalizer reading, and when it has dropped by 15 to 20 psi, move the handle to the lap position. You will notice that the pressure will slowly begin to flow into the brake cylinders, resulting in an application. This can also be done by pressing the Z key on the keyboard. Train stopped. Well done. You've brought the train to a halt. Coupling. Let's have a go at coupling the locomotive to some rolling stock. Switch to the external view. Can you see the F7B unit parked just behind from where you started? If you can't see the B unit, you may have gone quite a distance since you started. That is no problem, as the junctions are set for you to reverse, back up, and couple up. A warning will be given as you approach the B unit. With the locomotive stopped, switch the reverser handle to reverse and increase the throttle to the first notch. We want to approach the rolling stock slowly as not to damage the coupling. Sometimes most of the time I use the the independent brake handle. I'll slow a train down. Getting close, you're getting close. Make sure your speed isn't too high, otherwise you'll cause coupling damage. I ain't going that fast. Coupling completed. Well done. You've coupled the locomotive to the rolling stock. Now that you've coupled the loco, this is how you uncouple it. First, you should stop the train and switch to an external view if you aren't in it already. Click on the uncouple button and move the cursor over the gap between the locomotive and the rolling stock. A red coupling icon will appear like seen here in the picture. With the mouse over the uncouple icon, click the left mouse button. You've now uncoupled the loco. Once that's done, change to a forward gear and move the train away. Why don't you go for a drive? Practice stopping, starting the locomotive, coupling, and uncoupling. I think we will. You come down here, toggle this, click, congratulations, you've completed tutorial 3. Proceed to tutorial 4 on the route Outback Austria 2 when you are ready. We're gonna practice this one more time. I brought the train to a stop by moving the left throttle to idle and moving the locomotive brake handle to the full position. Now we're going to reverse, release the brakes, up slowly to the back it up slowly to the rolling stock. As you can see, I've successfully coupled. Now I'm going to decouple and move away. As you can tell, I've given it a lot of power. Now I'm slowly going to apply the brakes. And we're going to move on. We're now going to move on to the next tutorial. How we get out of this screen, we come up here, click the X button. No, I do not wish to save. Come down here to Outback Australia 2, Tutorial for Steam. The fourth tutorial will introduce you to cab controls in a steam locomotive. Control ID, control usage, managing your boiler pressure, driving skills, as well as coupling a locomotive to a waiting freight constant. So let's get in there and get started. Tutorial 4 Introduction. Welcome to the world of steam. Driving a steam locomotive is the ambition of every rail fan. Many engineers will tell you that a steam locomotive lives and breathes as if it were a living beast, and that there were many and varied characteristics. After completing this tutorial, you will begin to understand what engineers of days gone by felt when riding in these iron horses. First, get in the cab of this PB15 by clicking the Cab View button. The steam display window. You'll notice that the display window for steam locomotives are different from diesel and electrics. Below is a brief description of what each item on the display means. Brake pipe. A drop in pressure in the brake pipe indicates brake application. A fully pressurized brake pipe results in brake release. Brake cylinder indicates the braking force is being applied. A rise in pressure indicates braking. Main reservoir displays the pressure in the main reservoir, a storage tank for compressed air used by the braking and some auxiliary systems. The equalizer, indication of the eventual brake force being applied. The brakes show the state of the brakes. This train have the following settings: release, lap, application, emergency, and handle off. The boiler indicates the available pressure in the boiler to drive the locomotive. Regulator, how much throttle is being applied to the train. The cutoff controls the volume of steam being admitted to the cylinders. A steam train has water. The water level in the boiler. This should be kept above 60%. By the use of the injectors. 66 is an ideal level to maintain. Use the injectors to maintain the level required. The train is controlled by using the mouse to operate various levers in the cab. This is cab controls here. When you enter the cab, prepare the engine for the road. Below is a shot of the BP-15 interior. First, release the brake by moving the train brake lock lever to the release position. Move the cursor over the lever, click and hold the left mouse button, and move the mouse forwards. Watch the brake cylinder pressure on the display. A reading of 0 indicates that the brakes have been released. This can also be achieved by pressing the Q key on the keyboard. Some of the commands will be the same all across, but there will be differences, I promise you. Advance the throttle as the train begins to gather momentum, conserve boiler pressure, and slow your acceleration by reducing the cutoff. The acceleration of the locomotive is determined by the combination of throttle position and cutoff. Steam will be used more efficiently at lower cutoff settings. If you begin to slow down, just increase the cutoff again to regain speed. If boiler pressure begins to drop, then reduce the cutoff if practical. Sometimes, however, this will not be an option, as reducing the cutoff while heading uphill, for example, will mean the train does not have enough power to keep climbing. In this case, adding more coal to the fire will eventually raise the boiler pressure, keep the train moving. You can add more coal to the fire by opening the fireplace and pressing the space key. Okay, so now we're moving. As the train begins to gather momentum, conserve boiler pressure and slow your acceleration by reducing the cutoff. The acceleration of the locomotive is determined by the combination of throttle position and cutoff. And steam will be used more efficiently at a lower cutoff settings. If you begin to slow down, just increase. Ease the cutoff again to gain speed. Boiler pressure begins to drop. Reduce the cutoff if practical. Sometimes this won't be an option. Blah, blah, blah. Watch the water level. The water level in the boiler should be kept between 50 and 75% at all times. You are able to observe the water level in the gauge glass. If water is too low in the boiler, open the injectors to push more water into it. Watch the other levels. Keep an eye on the amount of coal available by switching to the external view, then right-clicking on the tender and choosing View Details. For tank locos, right-click on the locomotive itself. If coal or water is getting low, it might be time to find a filling station. You now have enough information to drive the most complex trains on rails. Read the engineer's handbook for more information about driving. Couple up. See if you can take the locomotive to the adjacent siding and couple up with the freight cars. This will require you to stop, change junctions, and reverse. What I am going to do right now, change to an external view, and then free roaming. I'm still in control of my train. I gotta bring it up past this signal. So, I'm putting it all the way to As you can see, I am bringing it up the line to pass this switch. As soon as it passes, I will bring it to a stop. By applying the brakes. I am now releasing the brakes. I am now adjusting the regulator. Give it a minute or two. I have to throw a switch in case there's another train that comes through here. Of course, as far as I know, we could be that was close. Tutorial completed. Congratulations, you have completed tutorial level 4. Proceed to tutorial 5 on the Highland Valley Industries route when you are ready. Well, that'll be in the next video. Enjoy.